Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of NASCAR's Lost Teams, Stavola Brothers Racing. Bill and Mickey Stavola formed the Stavola Brothers Racing team, a NASCAR Cup Series team that competed from 1984 through 1998. A few notable drivers spent time driving for the team, like Bobby Allison, Dick Trickle, Sterling Marlin, Jeff Burton, Stricklin and Morgan Shepherd. This team debuted in 1984 with Bobby Hillin behind the wheel of a number 8 Trop Rock Industries Buick and Chevrolets. Jake Elder served as crew chief for the number 8 team in 1984. For 84, the Stavola Brothers team ran a select schedule, making 17 attempts, DNQing at Dover in the fall. In Hillin's 16 starts, there were several top 20 finishes, just nothing that great, with zeros across the board. Now, in 1985, there was a bit of an improvement for Hillin and the number 8 team, spending the first 5 weeks of the season in the top 10 in points. Hillin's best start was 7th at Talladega in the spring, and his best finish was 9th 4 times at Daytona, Bristol, and Talladega in the spring, then Charlotte in the fall. Overall, they scored 4 top 10s, finishing 15th in final Cup Series point standings. After Bobby Allison's fallout with Dygaard Racing in the middle of the 1985 season, in 1986, Allison took his primary sponsorship and himself to the Stavola Brothers Racing team, behind the wheel of their number 22 Miller American Buick. Bobby Hudson served as the number 22 team's crew chief in 1986. That number 22 team had a strong season, spending 16 weeks inside the top 5 and 19 weeks inside the top 10 in point standings. Allison's best start was 2nd, and his best finish was 1st, both coming at Talladega in the spring. Overall, scoring 1 win, 6 top 5s, and 15 top 10s, finishing 4th in final Cup Series point standings. Bobby Hillin returned to the number 8 Miller American Buick full-time. Ron Purrier served as the crew chief for the 1988 season for the number 8 team. This would end up being Bobby Hillin's best season he would ever have in the Cup Series. Hillin's best start was 4th at Richmond in the spring, and his best finish was 1st at Talladega in the spring. This would be Hillin's first and only career victory. Overall, he scored 1 win, 4 top 5s, and 14 top 10s, finishing a solid 9th in final Cup Series point standings. It was essentially status quo for the Stavola Brothers Racing team in 1987. Allison returned to his number 22 Miller American Buick full-time. Jimmy Finning began serving as crew chief in 1987 for the number 22 team. Allison had a bit of an up-and-down season in 87. Allison's best start was 1st at Charlotte in the fall, and his best finish was 1st at Daytona in the summer. Overall, scoring 1 pole, 1 win, 4 top 5s, and 13 top 10s, finishing 9th in final Cup Series point standings. Though at Talladega, he had a horrific ride when his engine blew and cut his right rear tire going through the tri-oval. Even the flagman had to take cover. The accident tore about 100 feet down off the catch fence. Several spectators were transported to the local hospital with injuries. The accident is what led NASCAR to mandate restrictor plates on the race cars on superspeedways. Once again, Bobby Hillin returned to the number 8 Miller American Buick full-time. Hillin had a few good runs throughout the season, though he was very inconsistent. His best start was 5th at Martinsville in the fall, and his best finish was 5th at Talladega in the spring. Overall, scoring 1 top 5 and 4 top 10s, finishing 19th in final Cup Series point standings. The 1988 NASCAR Cup Series season started off pretty normal for the Stavola Brothers Racing team. Bobby Hillin returned to the number 8 Miller High Life Buick full-time. Bill Woodruff served as the number 8 crew chief for the 1988 season. All in all, Hillin had a pretty decent season, spending 17 weeks inside the top 10 throughout the season in point standings. Hillin's best start was 7th at Talladega in the spring, and his best finish was 3rd at Martinsville in the spring. Overall, Hillin scored 1 top 5 and 7 top 10s, finishing 16th in final Cup Series point standings. In the team's second entry, Bobby Allison returned to the number 12 Miller High Life Buick for what was intended to be full-time. Though at race 13 in Pocono, Allison wrecked and was sitting broadside across the track when Jocko Macago T-boned him. Allison was seriously injured and only given a small chance of survival. This was the end of Allison's illustrious career. In the first 13 starts of the season, Allison was off to a pretty decent start to the 1988 NASCAR Cup Series season, even winning the 1988 Daytona 500. His best start was third, and his best finish was first, both coming at Daytona in the spring. Overall, in 13 starts, Allison scored 1 win, 3 top 5s, and 6 top 10s. Mike Alexander was brought in to take over for Allison following his career-ending accident. Alexander took over starting at race 14 at Michigan, starting 12th and finishing 10th. For just being thrown into this situation, his best start was second at Richmond in the fall, and his best finish was third in Atlanta in the fall. Overall, Alexander scored 2 top 5s and 6 top 10s. That following season in 1989, Stavola Brothers Racing again fielded 2 entries. Their flagship number 8 Miller High Life Buick had Bobby Hillin Jr. behind the wheel for a 6th straight season. Harry Hyde served as the number 8 team's crew chief in 1989. They had just an alright kind of season. Not spectacular, not horrible. Hillin's best start was 9th, and his best finish was 8th, both coming at Watkins Glen in the summer. Overall, scoring 1 top 5 and 7 top 10s, finishing 12th in final Cup Series point standings. The number 12 team was renumbered the number 84. Miller High Life Buick, with Mike Alexander, expected to run a full season. Well, he only made 1 start, the Daytona 500, starting 22nd and finishing 27th. The next race, the Stavola brothers brought in Dick Trickle to take over the number 84 for the remainder of the 1989 season. In 28 starts, Trickle had a pretty strong season, even becoming the oldest driver in history to win Rookie of the Year honors at age 48, a feat that stands to this current day. Trickle's best start was 5th at Martinsville in the fall, and his best finish was 3rd 3 times at both Martinsville races, then Atlanta in the spring. Overall, he scored 6 top 5s and 9 top 10s, finishing 15th in final points. As the calendar switched over to a new decade, in 1990, Stavola Brothers Racing cut back to a 1-car operation. Bobby Hillin Jr. returned to the number 8 Snickers Buick for his final season with the team. In comparison with the previous few seasons, 1990 was a bit of a letdown for Hillin. His best start was 10th at Daytona in the spring, and his best finish was 5th at Sonoma in the spring. Overall, scoring 1 top 5 and 4 top 10s, finishing 19th in final Cup Series point standings. The 1991 NASCAR Cup Series season saw the Stavola brothers sign a brand new driver to pilot their number 8 Snickers Buick, Rick Wilson, full-time. Truthfully, together, they had a very disappointing season. Though, like I've stated in past videos, NASCAR was really growing, and single-car teams just weren't as effective as they once were. Wilson's best start was 9th, twice, at Rockingham and Dover in the spring, and his best finish was 12th at Atlanta in the spring. Overall, he scored 6 top 15s and 14 top 20s, finishing 26th in final Cup Series point standings. In 1992, Stavola Brothers Racing brought back Rick Wilson to run the Daytona 500, where he started 38th and finished 23rd. Then Wilson and the Stavola brothers parted ways. Dick Trickle took over for Rick Wilson in the number 8 Snickers Ford for the remainder of the season. This was definitely a bump in performance from 91 to 92. Ken Wilson served as the crew chief for the number 8 for the 1992 season. Trickle's best start was 2nd in Atlanta in the spring, and his best finish was 5th 2 times in Atlanta and Bristol in the spring. Overall, Trickle scored 2 top 5s and 8 top 10s, finishing 20th in final Cup Series point standings. Trickle and Stavola brothers parted ways for good at the end of the season. The next driver the Stavola Brothers Racing team signed was Sterling Marlin as a driver of the number 8 Robustus Brakes Ford full-time in 1993. The 93 season was an up-and-down season for the team. Marlin's best start was second at Loudon in the summer, and his best finish was second at Daytona in the summer. Overall, he scored 1 top 5 and 8 top 10s, finishing 15th in final Cup Series point standings. Marlin and Stavola Brothers parted ways at the conclusion of the season, so Marlin could go drive for Morgan McClure Motorsports. For the 1994 and 95 NASCAR Cup Series seasons, Jeff Burton became the new driver of the team's number 8 Robustus Brakes Ford. Ken Wilson served as crew chief in 94, and Donnie Richardson served as crew chief in 95. Between the two seasons, 94 was just a bit better, finishing 24th in final points. Overall, in 59 starts, Burton scored 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s. At the conclusion of the 1995 season, Burton left to drive for Roush Racing. Bud Stricklin took over the number 8 Circuit City Ford for 1996 and 97, and the first 11 attempts of the 98 season. Together, they really didn't find much success at all, though for one awesome race at Darlington in 1996. They led the most laps and was as fast as anyone there, almost beating Jeff Gordon, finishing second. Otherwise, they just didn't find much success. So in 65 starts, they scored 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s, with the best points finish of 22nd in 1996. Buckshot Jones was hired to drive the team's number 8 Circuit City Ford the following week at Dover, having a very impressive run, starting 19th and finishing 8th. Then, after that strong run at Dover, Buckshot and his race team sort of merged with the Stavola Brothers to start fielding the 00 Realtree Camouflage Chevrolets. They DNQ'd 3 times, qualifying 4 times, with a best start of 11th and a best finish of 16th, both coming at Talladega in the fall. The final start that the Stavola Brothers Racing team would make would be at the season finale in Atlanta with Shepherd behind the wheel of a number 8 Nokia Chevrolet. They started 32nd, but by the halfway point they had already worked their way into the top 8. Sadly, his race would come to an end as he would make contact with Jeff Gordon's number 24 Chevrolet as Shepherd was passing him for 7th position. Bill Stavola and Terry Labonte announced plans of fielding race cars in the Sprint Cup Series in 2010, with Terry Labonte driving. Labonte's brother, Bobby, ended up needing the past champions provisional to get into the race that they planned to drive, so Terry and the team missed the show. In 2010, Bobby Labonte drove the number 10 Gander Mountain Chevrolet at Charlotte and Texas, finishing 22nd and 30th respectively. Terry had hoped to secure money to run a 15-race schedule in 2011, though the money never really materialized. So, in 524 NASCAR Cup Series starts, they scored 1 pole, 4 wins, 36 top 5s, and 114 top 10s, with the highest points finish of 7th by Bobby Allison in 1986. Thanks for watching, everyone, and take care.